All right, we've got conditional statements. Conditional statements are statements that are premised on a condition. You got a hypothesis and a conclusion. Now be very careful on this one, because a lot of people go by the way the statement is written left to right than what's actually on the statement itself. You see this word if? That means this is your hypothesis, and that means that this is your conclusion. So when I do the converse, I'm going to actually switch the hypothesis and conclusion. So the if is going to move in front of the other part of the statement. So instead of saying the Rattlers will win the football game if they score in the fourth quarter, I'm going to put the Rattlers will score in the fourth quarter The Rattlers will score in the fourth quarter if they win the football game. Now, what I've done for the converse, if you switch the values. Now, if you remember what you have set up here, the original is if A, then B. Not here, Bubba. If A, then B. The converse is written if B, then A. So you're going to switch it. Okay? If B, then A. The first one is always the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse. That's what happens when you get done with trig right before you do this video. So the inverse is where we actually take the negative of the original. So in the inverse is going to be if not A, then not B. So for the inverse, it's not A to not B. Now sometimes you'll see this indicated as A prime, B prime, but we're just being plain here. So I'm going to take the original statement. Instead of saying the Rattlers will win if they score in the fourth quarter, I'm going to say the Rattlers won't win if they don't score in the fourth quarter. What I'm doing here is I'm taking the original statement and making it negative. That's what the inverse is. Instead of saying they will win if they do score, I'm saying they won't win if they don't score. Okay? So here's the last one, the contrapositive. The contrapositive is either the converse of the inverse or the inverse of the converse, whichever one you want to call it. So the contrapositive, okay, the contrapositive is going to be if not B, then not A. Okay? If not B, then not A. So I'm going to take the inverse and I'm going to converse it. So here's for the inverse, here's my hypothesis. So I'm going to change the if and put it in front. So the contrapositive would be if the Rattlers don't win, then they don't score in the fourth quarter. Now, not all of these statements will always make sense. It just depends, but that's how you do the conditionals. Converse, you flip the conclusion and the hypotenuse. Okay, second. And then the Rattlers, the inverse is the negative of the original, negative both hypotenuse and negative conclusion. And then the contrapositive is the converse of the inverse of the converse.